My name is Kayla, and I just wanted to share my story with you guys today on YouTube. Just put it all out there finally, because I haven't really talked about this stuff in like, I don't know, 4 years or so, probably more now, almost 5 years. Wow, that's crazy. But I just want to add my voice to the rest of the voices out there already, people sharing their stories, because there are so many people that are going through things like these. So yeah, I just want to put it out there too, because it's bullshit. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about, for so long I was in denial. I didn't think I had an eating disorder because I was just trying to be healthy or to be fit, or, you know, to live up to what diet culture tells us is healthy and what's not healthy, or what's sustainable and what's the best for the environment. And I was following all of that to the T, and through all of it, my quest to be healthy, I actually lost a lot of my health. I don't even know where to begin, but I will say that almost a decade of my life I was within this eating disorder mindset, and I had different phases. So for example, when I first developed this disordered behavior around food and body image was when I was about 14, and then it went on until I was about 22, 21. I went through different phases, like I was saying. So at first it was full-on anorexia, where I would go for a couple days without eating, or I would just go all day without eating and then have a light meal at night. And I got really skinny, and I did this because I was relying on Adderall to help suppress my appetite so I wouldn't have to eat, and it just made this dieting thing really easy. But then I started getting really skinny, and people started noticing. They started saying things to me like, dude, like, you can see your cheekbones. And instead of me seeing this as a wake-up call to change, I saw it almost as like a compliment, like it just fueled the fire, and I just kept going with it. And then I started fainting, passing out, you know, whenever I tried to exert myself, or I fainted in the shower. I fainted at my drills when I was a lifeguard. I fainted at a boot camp class at the gym within the warm-up. I wasn't even into the workout yet. And, or just like in the kitchen, and I would have to sit down real quick because I was passing out because of low blood sugar, because I wasn't eating. And so they just the doctors just diagnosed me with hypoglycemia and called it a day. They didn't ever realize that I wasn't eating. So then that progressed on to my fitness modeling days and competing days. How this transitioned, let's see. I don't really know how it transitioned, but I was able to mask it pretty well. And I said, you know, turn the bad addiction into a healthy addiction. So when I was young, I was into partying and drugs and alcohol, and stupid hairs. Ugh. I see it. It's like right there. Drugs, alcohol, partying, sex. Like, you know, I was just a wild child, but I was dealing with some shit that happened to me, and I didn't really want to talk about that right now. Maybe that's another video. So, you know, I was just masking it with, you know, those outlets. That was my coping mechanism. That's how I justified my health and fitness new addiction, and it was healthy, so it was okay. But with my extreme personality, I took it too far. This is where my health really started to suffer. I lost my sex drive, I lost my period, I started having horrible digestive problems, just like bloating all the time, like constipation, painful gas, and what else? I started becoming dizzy. I had no energy. So like working out at first was fun to me, but then it just became into like a full-time job. Like, because it was like full-time. I mean, I'd wake up, have to do fasted cardio, then I'd have to go to the gym for an hour, and then later on I'd have to do more cardio. It wasn't fun anymore, and it just took all the joy away. On top of it, not having any energy to do it takes all the fun away too. After all the fitness modeling and competing, I was like so over it. I remember my last competition, I just disappeared. I disappeared from my coach, my workout partners, you know, my social media where I was up to like almost 30,000 followers. It was like a ghost town. My Facebook, everything. My clients, you know, I at least let them know. Like, I didn't just disappear on them. I mean, I tried to let everyone else know, like, dude, this is not for me. I'm feeling like shit. And then, you know, they tried to say, oh, well, you're probably doing this, or this wrong. And I'm like, dude, no, I'm doing it all right, you know, just to the T, because that's my personality, is the perfectionist mindset. That was hurtful too, because I tried to express myself. If any of you guys are feeling this way from this lifestyle, you know, I'm feeling the same way. I was trying to, it was almost like a cry for help, like, what the fuck? Like, I'm on the most healthy meal plan, that eat clean, train mean, live lean diet, and I'm working out, I'm like super healthy. Why am I feeling so bad, right? But no, it was all my fault. I was doing something wrong. I did have some people though, you know, reach out and be like, dude, I'm feeling this way too. You know, it sucks. Like, what's wrong? You know, this is when we all were like binging, because all we could think about was food. That's the one thing about this lifestyle, the restrictiveness, is you're always thinking about food. Your whole life revolves around food. You know, you're not really able to have a social life. I passed up so many traveling opportunities or fun times with my friends and family. I was so fucking rigid, like a control freak too. If people ever, you know, I had this hoarding mentality around food. Like, if people tried to share, you know, like normal people do, share meals or, you know, help you out in the kitchen cooking, it was like, no, get away from me. Like, or no, I had this specific amount measured out just for me. Like, I need that, because you're in starvation mode. So yeah, it's just like socially isolating too. I lost really good relationships. Where was I going with this? I kind of got fed up too, because I was posting all these pictures, looking all ripped and lean and acting like my life was so good. But on the inside, just because I looked externally appealing and healthy and in shape, on the inside, I was dying. I was miserable. I was irritable. I was starving. There was no joy in my life anymore. And this lifestyle, you know, I was even told within this lifestyle that you have to be selfish. This is a selfish sport. This is a selfish lifestyle. And at first it didn't resonate with me, but being around that all the time, you know, I just became it, and I didn't like it. And towards the end there, I was determined to get through the competition, that last competition, and do it. But after that, I just knew like something had to change. So I went through with it. I felt like death, but I did it. After that, I pretty much went vegetarian because I was so sick, grossed out with the meat. Like 5 times a day, it was like chicken and tilapia and broccoli and asparagus. And like 1/4 a cup of oats. It was miserable. And you know, you're like choking down the meals, smothering it in hot sauce just because it tasted, ugh. You're so sick of it. Oh yeah, I got sidetracked, but my point was is I was posting all these photos for everyone and getting praise, like, oh my god, you look so good, and yada yada blah 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 blah, because they didn't realize what was really going on behind the scenes in my real life. Or this goes for any other like IG person out there. You know, we follow all of their Instagram accounts and we see only a picture, but that's only like 10% of their whole life. We don't know how they feel behind the scenes, what they have to go through to get there, how many years it took to get to that point, how dehydrated they are, or, you know, there's so many more factors. I would get up, I had this specific formula that I did to manipulate my pictures, as do all these other people on Instagram or YouTube or the magazine covers or the billboards or the movies. It's all manipulated and skewed. It's not even real. It's not sustainable. It's not reality, or it's not healthy reality. All these people are miserable. They even talk about it. If you really look at their interviews, they talk about how shitty it is to get to that point, to look that way that they do in their photos or their movies or whatever. So, you know, I'd wake up in the morning on an empty stomach without water yet, to take my pictures, or with my photo shoots. And this goes for others out there. It's all about the lighting, the pose, the certain pose to manipulate the curves and the structure of the body. It's all about, the tanning. It's all about the angle. It's all about if they're dehydrated, if, you're taking diuretics, if you're dieting the fuck down to starvation mode. There's all these other factors that people don't realize that goes on behind the scenes, and then they feel like they have to live up to that when it's not even reality. And then they feel like a failure because they can't live up to that. Then we're all comparing to each other and feeling shitty about ourselves, and we only feel like success if we can get to that point. We can only feel happy if we can get to that point. But the reality is if you feel shitty now and you get to that point, you're going to arrive at that point with that same shitty mindset, and you're going to still feel shitty about yourself, and nothing will ever be good enough. I still felt like I looked big or whatever, or I still had so much fat to lose. All these stupid, distorted thoughts. I didn't really have fat to lose. And being pinched at and poked at and, tugged around and like, oh, you need to work on this area of your body, or, this is unproportionate, or, pose this way so it looks more proportionate, or, being told this within that lifestyle, it's a setup for body dysmorphia. It is. And that's what it was. Like those competitions, the fitness industry, the modeling, it's all that. And then people are doing that in their own personal lives. It's all just a big bubble of shit. And so, there's so much information out there today. We live in the information world, the information age. And it's a blessing, but it also can be debilitating. Why? Because this person is saying that their way is the only way, and this person is saying, well, no, they're wrong, but I'm right, and my way is the only way. Or this study backs up this way of eating and debunks that way of eating, but then that way of eating also has, science to back it up and say that the other one is wrong, and everyone's pointing the finger saying they're right and they're wrong. And so it leaves us being overwhelmed with information and contradicting statements and studies, and people saying that, their dogma or diet or lifestyle or regime is the only way. It can happen this quick, the quick fix mentality. Shred pounds in 2 hours or 2 weeks. And my point is, we're left confused and shitty. Like, we don't know what to do with ourselves anymore. We lose our own voice because we're being tugged in so many ways, and we put so much energy into listening what everyone else is saying and putting out on the internet or in the books or in the videos, and in that act of always seeking answers from the external world, we get that much more out of touch with our intuition, with our inner voice. The best answers come from within. They really do. If you feel confused, just look within. I challenge you to do that. That is how I really overcame this. I stepped away from all of it, and I was like, you know what? None of this is working for me. I tried everything. Well, let me back up. I am getting way ahead of myself. So you're thinking about food all the time, right? And you salivate at night thinking about your cheat meal next weekend. Or me. I'll bring it back to first person. This is me. And it may be you. But I was consumed with thoughts of foods. And a lot of other people were too. I mean, they're expressing it to me, and I was having dialogues with other people about this, saying every time I went to eat, I would just binge. It would turn into a binge, or like a weekend-long binge. This set me up into my next phase of my eating disorder, which was bulimia. Because that's just the nature of starvation, being in starvation mode, which these restrictive diets put you into. Semi-starvation, full-on starvation, whatever. It's all starvation, and the end result of starvation or restrictive diets is binging. Because your body's trying to make up for lack and loss of energy that you've been depriving it of because you think you're smarter than the body's intelligence with its gift of communication to us to eat on when cued to. That means it needs energy, right? So if you're not doing that, then each day that you restrict, you're putting yourself in an energy deficit, and your body has to make up for that. So when you do eat on your cheat day or whatever, you binge. And then you binge a lot and you can't control yourself. I mean, you eat and eat and eat. You get up to 10,000 calories or so or more. And you feel like you're gonna burst and you feel nauseous, but you still are craving stuff. And I was so confused by all of this. I didn't connect the dot with the dieting and binging. I didn't connect the dots, that they were connected. I didn't think that what I was doing with my diet was causing me to binge or to have all these health problems that were developing. And so I went on, and the fear of weight gain from all the binging that I felt uncontrollable around, because I felt like I was losing willpower, and all my results that I'd worked up to, I felt like I was losing. I felt like a failure. I felt like a glutton. I felt like I was greedy because I was just eating and eating and I couldn't control it. I thought I was doing something wrong, that I was just losing it. And I was so upset. I was so disappointed in myself. I was just so confused with what was going on. I would purge up my binges, right? And that went on for about 6 months. And, my health got even worse. My hair started falling out. I started becoming dizzy. I was in an ex-relationship again, and I couldn't be there fully. My sex drive was completely gone. I had no energy. I had no desire to do anything because all of my thoughts were consumed around food and when I would get my next meal and my next binge, or how upset I was with how shitty I was feeling. And so that went on for 6 months. But then at New Year's, I made this resolution with myself to quit the purging, because it was even furthering the ruining of my health. And so I did it, a New Year's resolution that actually stuck, but it did. And so along with that, in the new year, I decided to go vegan. Yeah. So I stayed vegan for several months, and then I found raw veganism. I mainly found this because this set up the stage for my new quest to heal my nagging health issues, because I still was in denial. I still wasn't making the connection that my diet was contributing to all my health issues. So the doctors couldn't find anything. They wanted to put me on like antidepressants. All right, my camera died, so I'm just gonna film on my camera. My camera died. I'm gonna film on my iPhone. Where was I? I think it stopped off about me getting put on antidepressant pills because everything was apparently all in my head, right? And I didn't want to do that. So I was on my quest to finding the healing way, my golden ticket to health. Raw veganism. I stuck with raw veganism for a good few years. Then I juggled for the end of the year back and forth between cooked vegan and raw vegan. I just had this battle in my mind because I still was holding on so tightly to the dogma of raw veganism that it was the only way for health. And if I strayed, that I would get all mucused up, I would get cancer, I would get diabetes, my health would go to shit. And, I just had this ideology ingrained in my brain that I was literally brainwashed, and I thought that everything outside of that was just bad and horrible, and I would just be a total fuck up. And the people within the community totally would not support me. Because throughout the time I would voice that I was not feeling good and it was not healing me and I was only feeling worse. And they just, said, you just gotta keep going. You just gotta keep pushing. And, I just knew something wasn't right deep down. But at the same time, I just clung on to this ideology and I stuck with it. I remember, to be honest, the fruitarianism and the raw veganism, literally, it was the worst that I had felt throughout this whole time that I've been explaining. I felt the worst that I had felt ever. I got so skinny, literally people were concerned about me. I was just skin and bones, if you can see in this picture. You can even see that my shoulders are they go down. They are indented. That is not normal. I was so weak and fragile. I would get winded just walking up the block. I had no energy. I was so foggy. I was just so confused. I was bedridden. I would go to bed at night and I would be scared to go to bed at night because at night, for some reason, the symptoms would really hit hard and they were scary. I really felt like I was dying every single night, and I don't know how to explain that feeling, but It literally felt like my body was shutting down on me every single night. Luckily, I started adding in like more fats, and I wasn't feeling that death feeling, but I still couldn't sleep. My hair was still falling out. My skin was dull. I was still super constipated, even though I was eating the most water-rich, nutrient-dense foods, supposedly. And I had to rely on enemas every single day, even sometimes a few times a day for over a year. That was miserable. That took up hours of my day. God, that was horrible. Yeah, so I tried everything. When I tried to go back, after I moved to Hawaii, that is when I had my shift. It was a spontaneous move to Hawaii. I literally bought my ticket and moved there a few weeks later. Because I was like, well, if I'm going to suffer, I might as well suffer in paradise, right? I loved Hawaii, so I just went. And luckily, this is where the whole shift happened. I met some people who had been in a similar situation as me, like going through all these diets, trying to heal themselves, being, on their health quest, and ruin their health as well. So they understood, and they were trying to get me to like open my brain up, open up a little to new information, add in some cooked food, add in a little animal products. I was so against it. I was so pissed too. I was angry that they wanted to, try to sway me, because I was set in my ways. Luckily, living with them, I went back and forth all over the place. Weird story being there. Weird experience, but awesome experience. And so it took away my control. And a lot of us in this literally have to be taken away from our control. But really what it is letting go of toxic control in order to regain healthy control. Luckily, I started eating more foods, so I was eating more foods, like just binging though. But at first I only had a little bit, and that little bit gave my brain enough power to wake up my appetite too, and to realize that food was not scarce anymore, and food was there again, and it just turned on my brain into a binging monster. The monster was released, and I went on several month-long binge, and I felt horrible. I could talk about that in another another video about the recovery symptoms. Holy shit, that is a whole nother story. Yeah, so that was a huge shift, thankfully, but I still clung on to the old dogmas. And I was like, no, but that's the only way, and I have to keep going back. So I went back and forth and back and forth. And slowly over time, I was able to slowly let go of the dogma. The more I just was consistent with recovery, the more I was able to stick to just being consistent with no restrictions and adding more foods into my diet and getting over my fear of foods and certain food groups, and just really challenging that. Some of my friends that I was able to reconnect with because I had more energy and the desire to reconnect with people and old past relationships, I started hanging out with some friends, and they just showed me like how normal eating was like, and I hadn't been around that in so long. It was just so weird to me and fascinating. Like they could just go eat whatever they wanted and like not even care, and stop halfway through and be like, I'll save it for later. And I was like, what? Like I want to eat mine, yours, and yours, and then still be wanting, it was just crazy. But the more I was consistent and persistent, like I said, over months and months, I was able to get to that point myself. And it's just so freeing. That's how it should be. Eating should be, stay back. Eating should be so easy. Eating should not take so much brain power. It should not take up so much space in our day, in our lives, in our conversations, in just everything. We should be able to know what we want to eat it, and move on with our life. We should be able to say no when we're really not hungry, or say yes to something that a loved one cooked for us. We should be able to walk by the pantry or have some snack in our bag, car, or whatever, and not think about it, or forget about it, or walk past it and be like, I'm not really craving that right now. When you stop restricting, like how everyone says sugar is addicting or carbs are addicting, when you don't restrict carbs over time, you stop wanting to eat so much of it. and it becomes neutral. Just everything is on an even playing ground now. Everything is just neutral. It's like, meh. I don't know how more to explain it than that, but it just is what it is. And I'm just going on now on a fucking rant. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna go into this deeper in more videos because I have so much to talk about, and yeah. So upcoming videos if you want more. This is a really, really long video, but I hope it has helped you in some way. And damn the diets, screw the restrictions, get over the food fears. Yeah, get your life back. It's so much more awesome. It is so much more awesome. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.